Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special edition of Polio Talks. So we are celebrating 121st anniversary of our organization, and we are having with us a very special guest. Michael McGovern, a member of Rotary Club of South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, USA, has been selected to chair the Polio Oversight Board, the governance body that provides strategic direction and unified leadership for the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. McGovern's appointment is a significant milestone for Rotary International, which co-founded the GPEI in 1988 and has contributed more than 2.9 billion US dollars, along with countless volunteer hours, toward ending polio worldwide. In his new role, McGovern will help coordinate the work of this body and steer effort to safety and sustainable reach the goal of polio-free world. He will also continue to chair Rotary's International Polio Plus Committee, a role he has occupied since 2014. Serving as a chair of the Polio Oversight Board is an honor and responsibility, says McGovern. We stand closer than ever to achieving a world free of polio. Together with our partners and millions of volunteers who make this work possible, we will finish the job. So, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for the honor to have you with us and to discuss with you different topics in this last mile that we need to accomplish all together. So, Mike, please, the opening floor is for you for 15-20 minutes as you wish, and then we will continue with our discussion.
Thank you very much, Nikola. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for everyone joining us on the 121st anniversary of the first meeting of the Rotary Club of Chicago. I've actually had an opportunity to visit that club, and it has a rich history, and that's just so many other clubs have followed since that have done so much. Just an interesting side story is I went to my Rotary Club meeting last Wednesday night, last week, and there was a gentleman sitting a couple of seats down from me who was a prospective member of Rotary. One of the members had brought him as a guest, and his name is Paul Harris. So we're hoping to have Paul Harris as a member of our club. Not to take anything away from Chicago, but it was interesting. He did seem interested, and I hope we made a good impression on Paul Harris. So anyway, it's wonderful to be here. That's a live picture in back of me of my backyard. You can see the trees swaying a little bit back and forth in the Northeast United States, especially along the coast. There's a significant snowstorm now going on, so we're dealing with it. So I'm stuck inside the house for the day, which is fine. So I want to give you an update on where I think we stand things with polio, and I tend to in these calls to be rather direct and honest, but I just want to make sure, even though I may say negative things about how things are going, overall the trend continues to be positive. And I remain confident that thanks to your help and the help of our partners, the frontline workers, and so many others, we will soon see an end to polio. A lot of folks who look at the weekly case numbers. Overall, the news is pretty good. The polio variant cases, also known as the circulating vaccine-derived polio cases, will be about half in 2025 as it was in 2024. We're still getting cases coming in. There's sometimes a delay in reporting, but that's positive. On the wild polio virus, all of the cases are just from the two endemic countries, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Those cases right now, if you, for those of you that look at the weekly report, the one last Thursday had 44 wild polio virus cases. But it also said there was a pre-notification of 3 in Afghanistan. So, I had heard a few days before from Ishak, our volunteer leader in Afghanistan, Rotarian, that they had identified 3 new cases all in one place. One of the challenges with Afghanistan is that they get into a bit of a dispute a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago now, with Pakistan. The laboratory that identifies the cases is in Islamabad, Pakistan. They send the fecal samples to that lab, but they put a hold on sending any. So the reason you might have seen we're getting notice of cases in October, and some of those cases, wild poliovirus, we're getting them now, is because only a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, they started sending the cases from Afghanistan to the laboratory in Pakistan. But I was speaking to the head of the UNICEF polio program Friday, I think it must have been. And he said there are still 900 cases that have not cases, 900 fecal samples that have not yet been reviewed by Islamabad, the laboratory. So I just caution you, although, most, the great percentage of those, even maybe 100%, might turn out not to be polio. There still is the possibility of more cases coming out of Afghanistan. My hope and my prayer is that we'll still end up with about half of what we had last year. Because, if you look at the 4799, you double 47. If my math is quick, that's 94. So it's not quite up to the half amount, but still, I do expect. In Pakistan, they just had a national immunization. They call them days. They're really weeks. They had it over the whole country. I think someone, Sajid or someone else could correct me. I think it ended the end of last week, and or the week before. And the goal was to immunize 45 million children. They immunized more than 45 million children. So there's been, good adherence. The program is running well. One of the big issues we've had is because of the militancy and some of the views, I guess you would have to say, up in southern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, southern KP, as we more easily pronounce it. In the last rounds at the end of 2025, there were 18 communities, they called them union councils, that were inaccessible. They did not allow polio vaccines due to the work of Rotarians and others and advocates. We were able to reduce that to 4 union councils during this last. That is huge. If we talk about and do the Global Polio Eradication Initiative uses the slogan or the logo of every last child. Well, we're not going to get to every last child unless we get into the communities that we need to get into. And that clearly involves quite a bit of cajoling or persuading them to allow their children to be vaccinated. We do have a good record of mothers in particular, but also fathers, but it's mainly mothers, are presenting their children for vaccines. We hear an awful lot about vaccine refusal and vaccine hesitancy. The reality is that there's very little of that. The bigger problem is when you just can't get into a community at all. So, we're hoping that we continue to see results from Pakistan. We also, as part of our surveillance, we do the on-site surveillance. We do the collection of the fecal samples, but we also do what they call environmental surveillance. And environmental surveillance is when you go to a body of water, you take a sample out of it, and you look to see if there's polio in that environmental sample. In Pakistan, it was way, way low, and then it went up a year or so ago. Now it's going back down. There's a lot more environmental samples that are negative, means that there's no polio in the water. In a number of provinces that's turned back. So Pakistan's on track. The program has excellent leadership. There's a woman named Senator Aisha Raza Farouk, who'll be speaking at the Rotary International Convention in Taipei. And, in my view, she's wonderful. She's extremely dedicated. She was in the position earlier under a previous prime minister. She was not in the position when Imran Khan was the prime minister, but she's back there, and she just provides a very positive force for it. The bigger problem, getting back to Afghanistan for a minute, the bigger problem there, a significant problem, is that I think most of you are aware who follow polio, is that at one point we were able to do house-to-house vaccinations everywhere. And what happened was we weren't able to do it in Kandahar. Well, Kandahar is where the person they call the Supreme Leader lives, and he's in charge now. And he decided that there wouldn't be house-to-house anywhere in the country. And, the country was required to do that. But they have been doing what they call site to site, which means they go outside in front of several houses. They, ring bells, not physically ring bells on the house, but, ring bells like this. And most of the people are coming out of their houses. It's working much, much better. So it's one reason why we haven't seen more cases in Afghanistan. But we got to solve those problems. We got to get the house to house in Afghanistan. We need to get into every community in Pakistan. And with that, it is doable to finally have no wild polio virus in the world. Very, very positive. We're continuing in the polio variant countries to see cases. While they're declining, we're still, those cases are all with individuals who don't get vaccinated at all. And so, as a result, they have very low immunity, very low resistance to viruses. And even though, they don't get the polio virus, if they get the other viruses, the other vaccines, they're still far less apt to get polio because their system fights it off. So you might, in those who do get polio, it's not as severe a case as there might otherwise be. But that also means that there may be more lesser cases that aren't severe that you don't know about because they just never report them. But anyway, those are trending down, and that's very positive. We do have some operational issues. We're not getting to as many communities for vaccines in Nigeria. They only have a 10% rate of routine immunization in Nigeria. So it makes it, particularly in the areas of the northwest part of the country, it makes it very susceptible to polio vaccine cases. Chris Elias, who's the head of oversees the polio program for the Gates Foundation, and Kathy Neusel, who's the direct head of the polio program, were there last week and reported back that we have some work to do there. And obviously the Rotarians in Nigeria have been very enthusiastic, very supportive, but we need to be able to increase those routine immunization rates, and I'll probably be going there later in the year to see how things are going there. We get a lot of questions and talk about financial contributions. Rotarians are doing wonderfully, thank you. The goal this year is $50 million worldwide, 1,500 per club that translates to, and we're doing well. The districts have been giving their DDF pledges, district designated fund pledges, and cash contributions are also up. So, at this point of the year, we're ahead of where we've been in the last few years. It just shows, we hear that there's polio fatigue from Rotarians. Yeah, that's true. I see it, whatever, but it's just as much new people are coming forward and giving, and those that have given generously over the years have given. Obviously, the Gates Foundation is still matching all the Rotarian contributions 2-to-1, up to $50 million a year, and they've agreed to do that for the next 3 years. for 27, 28, and 29, as well as obviously in 26. Government support has been assisted. Saudi Arabia stepped forward a while ago and is pledged $100 million a year for a 5-year period. They've already done the first contribution. We'll be awaiting the next 4. The United Arab Emirates has been supportive. So while some of the countries, particularly in Europe, the donations have not sustained where they once were. It's being made up for, fortunately, by some of the countries in the Mideast. A lot of questions about the United States government. Everyone's aware that there's individuals within the Trump administration who are vaccine, trying to put this politely, are unenthusiastic about vaccines. But the Congress, they're the ones that actually appropriate the monies. For the last 5 years, have appropriated, about the same amount of money each year. It's 265 million. And that was done a week or so ago. With full support of all the political parties in the United States. There's essentially 2. We met last year with about 150 individuals. John Nanny, who's on the call, is part of that team. And I don't think there was a single person we met who was negative toward polio eradication and continued financial support. And John and others are going to be there next week, continuing that next round of meetings. And I just got an email saying there's a whole, most of the time is already filled. We schedule them, an hour apart, roughly. And there's like 4 teams of us, so 3 teams that visit different places. So that's all going well. So it's there's a little bit of issue with how we operationalize it. We used to work with an agency called U.S. Agency for International Development, which did an awful lot of work assisting countries, particularly in Africa. They've gone out of existence. But I just got an email within the last hour from the State Department of looking forward to touching base when we're in Washington next week. So that's positive. And there's Germany continues to be supportive. The European Commission continues to be important. And there's others. The UK is not as good as it once was in terms of contribution, but that's all very positive. So that's a summary about where we stand. You read, people ask me about Gates. They ask me about, Gates is 100% supportive. We're proud to work with the Gates Foundation. They're very supportive, and obviously, they're given $100 million a year to Rotary, that Rotary allocates to where the greatest needs are for polio eradication. So, it's doable. Everywhere I go, people are enthusiastic, but I think everyone wants to see it done. And not only for the children of the world, and especially for the children of the world, but also because there are so many other needs and other things to use next year's presidential message that can create lasting impact. Polio certainly done that. We've got 20 million people walking on Earth that otherwise would have been disabled or have passed away if it wasn't for Rotary, getting the other partners with us to eradicate polio. I think the number is about 3 billion kids we've immunized. Where as I said, the contribution continue up. Right now, the vaccine cost about 15 cents. The full cost, including the cold chain and the frontline workers and all that, it's about $1 per vaccination. So kids need 3 vaccines, so that's $3. However, we also try to give everyone the inactivated polio vaccine, the shot in the arm, and we try to do at least 1 dose of that with every child we immunize as part of the immunization routine. And that is all funded by Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, headquartered in Geneva. They fund all of those IPVs and just a tremendous assistance. And, all of our partners are contributing, UNICEF, WHO in some different ways. Yes, UNICEF and WHO have seen funding cuts, especially from the United States. But, the CDC, they gave $46 million to UNICEF at the end of last year to help fund some of the different activities. We'll expect them. We know they'll be doing it this year. So anyway, I think I've taken my 20 minutes that you allocated for me before we go to questions, Nikola. But again, I
Don't
just
worry.
want to thank everyone, and it's a great day to schedule this, February 23rd, important day in the
Yes.
history of Rotary.
Thank you very much for this intro. And thank you very much for all insights that you are sharing with us. It's very important. There are a lot of EPNCs here, a lot of past district governors, a lot of Rotary zone coordinators, different coordinators, past presidents. So motivated Rotarians at the moment here, 60 of us, but more of them will see this recording. So it is helping us to create the synergy and to do whatever we need to do in our final mile. So I will start with a question received today from the Andre Suharto, EPNC from zones 10B and 10C, because he is not available at the moment. He asked, has GPEI officially reverted to the use of needle-free vaccines? If so, is there a current budget sufficient to create for use of the needle-free vaccines, since the cost is probably higher than using OPV? Are we still having a shortfall of 4,400 million to help us, 440 million to help us implement the strategy in polio eradication until 2029? So that was the question from his side.
That was a long question, Nikola. I'll try to do my best to answer it. We are using a number of different vaccines. The actual vaccine that is utilized is chosen by the country. Sometimes I'm asked as, why there's a bivalent vaccine, which has type 1 and type 3 virus in it. There's the monovalent vaccine, which is primarily type 1. We also have the IPV. We also, have the old, I should call it the long-standing oral polio vaccine, and then we have the novel polio vaccine, NOPV. NOPV2 has been licensed and authorized now for a couple of years, maybe 3 years now. We've now done 2 billion doses of that, of that alone. In the last 2 months, I think, NOPV1 was fully licensed. So, we have both now NOPV1 and NOPV2 in the traditional monovalent and the bivalent, the IPV. And, just to add more complication, the NOPV2, which is the one that's primarily used now, we've been dealing with only one vendor, Biopharma, out of Indonesia. It was helpful that it was a Muslim country, and that it was acceptable for use just about anywhere. We also now have a second supplier just approved a week ago, which is I might get this wrong, Biopharm E. It's out of India, I believe. So that's really good. We have competition now to buy the virus. We have a backup. Some of you may recall when we first started NOPV2 vaccines, there was almost immediately a lack of supply. It wasn't only because there was more demand than anticipated. It was also because there was a not a contamination. There was an issue in the lab that they had to scrub the whole lab down, and that took about 3 months. So we weren't getting the vaccine supply. So yeah, but those are all the vaccines. In the next few years, we fully anticipate we'll be immunizing everyone we need to be immunized, and we also we continue to have some outbreaks. There was a report of one in Zambia, I think, this past week, but it was an environmental. I saw emails go out. Sometimes emails go out and people get all excited. It's bad news, environmental, but we had environmental samples positive in Hamburg, Germany, a couple months ago. We've had them in obviously the case in New York was well known, maybe 4 years ago now. But usually most of those, particularly in areas with this high immunization rates, it's an anomaly. Someone goes there who's from a polio country, and it gets into the environment. So, it was a long answer to a long question.
Yeah, thank you very much. And what about this amount of 440 million US dollars until 2029?
I'm not sure what the reference is to the 440 million. Where
It's
that number comes from.
Yeah, okay. So let's continue, okay? Because I'm reading his question, so it's I'm opening the floor, and we are going to zone 22. Can you have a floor?
Before Ken goes, I do want to point out that the budget for the overall partnership is about $900 million a year. Where all the commitments are made, we're set for 2026, assuming Rotary comes through and a few others. But there's still a funding shortfall of about 400 million between now. Maybe that's the number he's talking about. 429 it was. 429 in the pledges they announced in Abu Dhabi back in late November, early December. That's not unusual at this point, 3 years ahead. For example, no amounts from the U.S. government are included in that's still to come. So that reduces the 429 quite a bit, and we're still hoping for other contributions beyond which have already been pledged. So we're feeling fine.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that was the context of the question. Thank you very much.
Okay. It was
So
just a
let's
little
go
off in
to
the amount. So
yeah. Sorry. Yeah, a lot of information and a lot of different contexts. So Ken.
Thank you very much, Mike. I know I arrived a little bit late, but all the same, I'm happy to join you and congratulate you on the bigger roles you're having and the role you're playing in the eradication of polio in the world. My question is, the statistics have been following coming between Pakistan and Afghanistan. I don't know whether any research has been done as to why there are more cases in Pakistan today than Afghanistan. Afghanistan looks to be a little more in control than Pakistan. So is there any reason why there are more cases in Pakistan? And if so, and they are known, what steps are being taken to make sure that we close on that gap?
Ken, I think if you look at the numbers, we first of all, we consider it one single epidemiological area. There's some traffic back and forth, whatever. But you look at the cases, Afghanistan has traditionally had higher immunization rates than Pakistan. There's been strong support for vaccines for many, many years, and we were able to be in virtually every community, with the exception of Kandahar, for many, many years. But if you look at cases per population of the child, there's actually more cases in Afghanistan. As I mentioned, when we immunized all the kids under 5 in Pakistan, it's about 45 million. When we do it in Afghanistan, it's about 10 million. So, nominally, if, all factors being equal, Pakistan should have 4 times as many cases as Afghanistan. But, there's lots of variables, and a lot of it is, the militancy that's gone on and the political support that needs to be present all the time, not just some of the time.
Thank you, Mike. Terry.
Sure. Oh, thank you, Mike, for all that you do and all the ways that you keep us updated. I wanted to mention first that we had a large polio meeting here in Houston this past Thursday. Our district had about 350 people there for a what we call an all club meeting, and our speaker was Andrew Stein, the deputy director of polio outbreaks for the Gates Foundation. He was here from Africa for to speak to us and did a great job of talking about the challenges involved in covering all those communities in northwest, particularly in the north of Africa, and but in the other countries there too. So, but also I think we had a really optimistic outlook on how things were going there, and raised a little bit of money too. So, I guess my question was, as we go forward and we get closer and closer to having zero cases, about what we do about immunization. I get asked that question fairly frequently. I mean, do we convert to all the injected vaccine, or do we? What is that going to look like when we get closer to eradication?
Yeah, Terry, first of all, thanks for the good news about the event in Houston. Andrew Stein is a great guy, and I'm sure he enlightened everyone. Your assumption is correct. Eventually, we're going to phase out the oral polio vaccine and move totally to the IPV, the non-live virus. So, but no date's been set for that. But it's we still have our goals of dates of when we want to end polio, and but then we will still do IPV for 9 to 10 years. I mean, you got to remember, in most countries of the world, they're using IPV. That's the that's the preferred. In all of the European countries, it's IPV, in the United States and Canada, and I believe in many of the North Asian countries as well.
You are muted. Please unmute. Terry, we are not hearing you.
Who are you going to, Nikola?
No, Terry is trying to tell us something, but he is muted. So,
Sorry,
Terry, if you can unmute. Yeah.
There we go. Sorry, I muted myself. We went on a tour of a laboratory, a bioengineering laboratory in Houston, where the doctor there is working on a time-release micro-encapsulated version of the polio vaccine, which would be inserted into the hexavalent injected vaccine already, and would release the 3 doses of polio vaccine over a period of time. Now, I don't know if that'll help us much. Hopefully, we'll be eradicated before this is actually finished, but it'll be used for other vaccines also. So there's a lot of other, I know, research going on. The Gates Foundation is primarily funding that research too. So a lot of other interesting and exciting developments, I think, going on about polio.
That's good. I've heard of some of that. Rotary funds about $2 million worth of research a year out of the 150 million. So we still have a hand in it, but your basic premise is correct. Most of the research is being funded by the Gates Foundation.
Thank you.
Now, past Rotary International Director Katarina, and now Rotary International President Representative for Afghanistan.
Yeah. Thank you, Nikola. Just one question. There is a strong will on behalf of Afghan Rotarians to be involved in the eradication efforts in the country. Is there a way, to give them a role and let them, help, Rotary in a more effective way?
We have meetings of our polio advocacy advisors around the world. We try to have as much involvement as we can. There's a meeting tomorrow with the African WHO and UNICEF of all of the Afro area, the region of WHO, Afro region, to update everyone, to talk about advocacy and talk about what we can do together. Afghanistan is a little more difficult, as you know from your work there. Many of the, there's only about 30 Rotarians, I think, you could correct me, who are, listed on the rosters of Rotary as Rotarians. And many of those, I believe, do not live in the country. So it's a challenge, and we're happy to have them involved, but we've had this discussion before. It's a little bit difficult when they've left the country. Their relationships, they're not. It's difficult working with the Taliban when you've left the country. It's just it's a challenge. So, but yeah, it's we've had one call with them. We plan to another couple, but it's a challenge. But all the other countries, it works fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe if you want, Katrina, maybe we can do a side conversation at some point soon.
Thank you. Should appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katerina. Stella.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's nice to be back here. I was EPNC till June last year, so polio eradication is still forefront in our minds. And I want to thank Mike for mentioning this last week's notification in the Africa region. We had scary headlines. Polio has erupted in Zambia. There were positive environmental samples, but those were the headlines. And last month, it was the same thing with Malawi. And our populations are getting quite anxious because they're finding it difficult to differentiate between wild poliovirus paralytic cases and polio in the environment. You mentioned that it is serious to have polio in the environment, yes, but we have not had cases yet. But when the population hears polio has erupted, then there is panic. And so countries are trying to do what they can do best. I'm just wondering how well we can do to differentiate the different things happening. Do we have a wild poliovirus case occurrence like we had in Malawi and in Mozambique a couple of years ago? That's one way of dealing things. Do we have positive environmental samples? That should be another way of dealing with things. It's not the same emergency. We just have to find out how to get that message across. Lastly, I just want to speak about my own district 9400, and actually the 3 districts that cover South Africa. We have 9350, 9370, and 9400. Fundraising for polio has been particularly slow because this country and these districts have not seen a case of polio in decades. And so even for Rotarians, it's difficult to convince them to continue donating to something they don't see. They wonder whether it is still, whether there's still polio. So what we have done when I was EPNC, of course, the goal is $1,500 per club. That is what we would wish to have. However, we have stated that we do not want non-giving clubs. That is the bottom line. So if a club can donate whatever they have, it is better than not giving at all. And we saw a good rise in the number of clubs that did give towards polio eradication. They didn't make the $1,500 per club, but they started giving. And that is where we want to continue going, encouraging clubs to give whatever they can give, but to give so that we do not have non-giving clubs. And I think others should follow that as well. With $1,500 is a shocker for many countries, for many districts. But if they can get it to bite size, something they can afford, then they can continue giving. Thank you.
Yes, Stella, it's good to see you and good to hear from you. There's a couple of different points you made. One is, we try to work with the media to help them clarify the different announcements, a vaccine-derived case, a wild polio virus case, a environmental sample. Once you read the article, they're generally right, but the headlines are terrible. They way exaggerate sometimes, but any sign of polio is serious, is to be followed, but it would be good. And we need to work with the media on that, but it's difficult. It's very difficult. As for club giving, I might go to one of the End Polio Now coordinators, Jennifer Jones, who's a past Rotary International president, the incoming chair of the trustees. She announced an effort at the International Assembly that was held in Orlando in January of dealing with the non-giving clubs. And I wondered if one of the End Polio Now coordinators who's familiar with her initiative, who perhaps was at Orlando, might want to address that.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, this is Eric Deneau. I wasn't in Orlando, but I'm real familiar with Jennifer Jones's challenge to the district governor-elects, and the challenge is just what Stella outlined, the non-giving clubs. So there's if the $1,500 US is based on what we need for funds to create and our challenge of the 50 million we need to raise. So what Jennifer Jones has proposed to the district governor-elects is to identify 5 clubs in your districts that are non-giving clubs or not meeting the $1,500 pledge. The idea is if we can get just 5 more clubs out of our districts, it raises just that much more out of the 500 plus or out of the 3,500 clubs 35,000 clubs we have. So that was her challenge, and I think she wanted to make it fun. So it's we talk about polio fatigue, we talk about awareness. I think if we make it fun, the $1,500 isn't a burden on the members. It really brings awareness to the community. You bring your event to the community so the community can help support our efforts to eradicate polio. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, but that's her challenge to the district governor-elects.
Yes, and if I can add, additional thing is that she's asking if possible to organize the fundraising event, just because with fundraising public event, this awareness part will also be present. So yeah, if I can add, Eric.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the awareness of course.
Yeah, it was amazing at Orlando how she presented that. So yeah. Kim.
Hello, and thank you. I did put a snippet from her challenge to the DGE line on the Polio Plus Society Facebook group, so everyone can see that, if that's helpful. But my question was to Mike. I was watching the news or watching TV this past weekend. They had a CBS morning show with Jane Pauley, and they did, to my surprise, an article, discussion about, will polio be coming back? Is it possible? And so that's also on YouTube and on the Facebook page as well. But it kind of talked about measles coming back because fewer people are vaccinating, and correlated that back to what could happen with polio. So with World Immunization Week coming soon, what do you feel is the best messaging for us to help drive donations and polio eradication? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. I didn't watch that. It was on the same time as a Olympic hockey game. that a lot of folks in the United States and Canada in particular were watching, but I imagine people were around the world as well. It was on the same time as that CBS Sunday morning program. Yeah, I've heard accounts of it. I'm familiar, with some of the individuals that were introduced. One of them who gave a good vaccine defense was Yitzhak Perlman, a world-renowned musician, cellist, I think. And he's done other things with Rotary before as a polio survivor. The so-called expert they showed was the person, the Secretary of Health and Human Services in the United States, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's the gentleman that he appointed head of the Vaccine Advisory Group. That group, they loaded up with anti-vax people. It was not surprising to see his opinion. He had spoken and I didn't see the program. Maybe they had him from what he said a few weeks ago, but he was the first one to say, that maybe we shouldn't be vaccinating kids for polio, the first one in the Trump administration. And, it wasn't a very popular opinion. And just a couple of days after that, the president of the United States pivoted what Kennedy was working on to say he ought to be looking at good food and good nutrition, healthy foods, and not so much the anti-vaccine agenda. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But but the other question there is, some people are trying to politicize polio vaccines, particularly in the United States and in some other countries. Rotary's taken the position that we don't engage. We don't give more attention to views that are totally contrary to. We don't want to amplify their views. I don't know if it's the right strategy. So far, it's worked. We still continue to get 100% funding, from the United States government. But we do get some people writing to us, how come you're not disagreeing? We get a lot of people that write, not a lot. We get some that write to us that complain that we don't speak out more on some of these things. And, we think it's important for individual clubs to focus on vaccinations in their communities around the world. We think it's important that we have awareness of polio's effort to eradicate polio, but for fundraising in particular, we stay out of what may be seen as political because of a lot of the divisions that are here in the United States and elsewhere. So it's a difficult balance to do. But for example, when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was nominated, a lot of people wanted Rotary to come out against the nomination, and we didn't do it. We think we're a lot better off by focusing on the program and the needs than on the outliers who have views that are contrary to what we've believed in for decades.
Nod.
Nikola, can I actually raise a question for Mike?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Mike. Thanks a lot for all the very interesting details. When I was in EPNC, we had always the problem because of what you mentioned. They were tired of giving to polio. Wouldn't that be? We had some kind of ideas, but it never actually worked out. I don't know why, because we tried to do that, and with Rotary International then. We said, why don't we actually come up with an incentive? What if the clubs are giving for this $1,500, for 3 years, continuously for 3 years, and they will be given then a kind of an award. They might probably pause another year or something like that. And if they gather actually another, 2 years or 3 years of giving a $1,500, they get let's say, a silver reward, and then they get a golden reward, and they get a diamond reward, or whatever it is. That would actually add up to kind of 15 years or let's say 12 years of giving. Would that be in your, in your mind or in your world? Could that actually work out? Because I tried that a couple of times, and the clubs were really reluctant, especially I think in Europe, in some part of Europe, it's a little bit of a problem because we haven't faced any of this kind of issue with polio. Probably some cases in London and, when all the immigration actually took place. What do you think about that incentivizing the clubs to really I wouldn't call it push them, but, to give them a little, nudge to do something?
Yeah, clubs appreciate recognition. Individual Rotarians do that. The Polio Plus Society, even though it isn't really an international program, it's district operated. There's been huge support for that because the biggest incentive for Rotarians is they want to see the end of polio. They want to see a successful program and they want to see the program done. But it's a 3-year and giving for 3 years at the 1,500 level ought to be recognized, and I'll bring that up with the countdown to history leadership. See what we can do.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you again. I'd heard that suggestion before, but I'm sitting here thinking, how come it wasn't implemented? I really don't know.
Yeah, I pushed it, I think, a couple of times with John Turn and Robert, but we never came to any conclusion. But, I would be glad if something is going to happen. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
As we are reaching the end of this Polio Talk session, I'm asking you, Mike, if you can do some wrap up or some motivational conclusion for all of us.
Our dear friend Francesco Arezzo is the president of Rotary International this year. He came on rather suddenly, rather unexpectedly. The board elected him after Mario Cesar stepped down. And you know what? He didn't have a whole lot of polio experience. I was worried about that. Or at least he might have, but I didn't know what he had for polio experience. He hadn't, served in a polio position. But you know what? He went and he saw the vaccinations going on in Pakistan. The first trip he took as president, other than to Evanston but the first trip he took out from Sicily, he was blown away by participating in the vaccinations. He was blown away by, he tells the story. I don't want to steal a part of his speech, but we were walking down a hallway in the National Emergency Operating Center in Islamabad, and he saw all these pictures on the wall, and these were people who had died in the line of service eradicating children. The numbers are staggering. There's about 300 worldwide who have lost their lives in this effort. And I look at it. We're asked to give money, we're asked to do other things, but it doesn't compare to what these families have endured, and the loss of folks. When you see a child today, in some of these countries with polio, you're just stunned about how unnecessary it is. It takes leadership. Yeah, it takes money, but it takes, for the most part, it takes local leadership. Local to make sure the vaccine programs are running, local to try to raise whatever money can happen. And we talk about big numbers. We've raised X amount of money. The goal is 150 million, but $100 from a small club is a big deal. Particularly in some of the countries that aren't as well off as others. So every donation is appreciated. Everything makes a difference. I go back to vaccinate a child. With OPV, it costs $1. We can do it. We should do it. We have to do it. We made the promise. I think we're going to do it. And back to President Francesco, The presidential message this year is Unite for Good. Nothing's perfect, but not everyone we work with is perfect. But at the same time, when we all work together, we all coordinate together, no matter what our position is in Rotary, whatever our position is in across, the different partners and whatever. When we unite for good, we get it done. So I really want to thank you. And, I hate to overuse the presidential messages, but it is about creating lasting impact. And, it's time to get polio done, and it's time to create lasting impact doing all the other things that need to be done in the world. So great to be with you, Nikola. Thank you for inviting me. Good to see a lot of friends and meet some folks I haven't met yet other than through this. So thanks, Nikola.
Thank you. Thank you very much for spending time with us. Thank you for very inspiring speech and honest answers. So it is very helpful and very important for all of us. Thank you all for being at this Polio Talks special edition on the 121st anniversary of our organization. It was amazing that we had opportunity to meet today, and I hope that in a few years we will celebrate our efforts in our last mile in the fight of polio. So have a good evening, day, or night. Thank you, Mike, once again, and you have a support of all of us in everything that you are also doing. So let's do it together.
Thank you.